The world's oil is transported through a strip of water that is just 21 miles wide.
Everyone will be affected by this war one way or another. In the market, oil prices are the thing that it's concerned about. The White House now trying to limit the impact of the war on energy.
Look at a map of the global economy. Right there, between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, is a tiny 21-mile stretch of water, the Strait of Hormuz. You have been told your entire life that this is a geopolitical flashpoint, a ticking time bomb, a place where military tensions could freeze global trade and plunge the world into darkness. But that is a distraction. The truth is much more calculated and infinitely more profitable. The Strait of Hormuz isn't a battleground, it is a pricing dial. And a very specific, highly coordinated group of players is quietly turning that dial to execute the largest, most flawless financial arbitrage in modern history. Forget the warships. Forget the political theater you see on the news. We are going to look at the math, because while the public is busy watching for the next global crisis, a shadow economy is printing billions of dollars in pure, untraceable profit, operating completely outside the boundaries of the traditional financial system. To understand the game, you first have to understand the players, specifically the Ghost Fleet. Right now, as you listen to this, there is an armada of aging, unmarked oil tankers navigating the world's oceans. They sail with their tracking transponders manually disabled. They swap massive cargoes in the dead of night on the open sea. They are hauling millions of barrels of sanctioned Iranian oil. On paper, this oil does not exist. In reality, it is the lifeblood of a massive, parallel economic engine. When a commodity is sanctioned by the West, it doesn't just disappear from the market. Demand doesn't evaporate. The asset just gets a new price tag. Sanctioned oil trades at a steep negotiated discount, a risk premium. If the global market price for a barrel of crude is $80, the Ghost Fleet might be selling it to independent refineries in Asia for $60, a $20 discount. That is the baseline of the trade. But baseline is boring. The real money, the institutional, generational wealth, is made in the volatility. Here is the twist the mainstream media entirely misses. The people controlling this sanctioned oil do not want an actual war in the Strait of Hormuz. A war stops the ships. A war halts the logistics. What they want is the psychological threat of a war. They want the tension. Because tension raises the global price of oil, and the global price of oil dictates their dark margins. Let's break down the extreme asymmetry of this trade. When maritime insurance premiums in the Gulf spike because of a sudden geopolitical headline, the global benchmark for crude oil reacts instantly. Panic sets in. The price shoots up from $80 to say $100 a barrel. The legitimate Western oil companies cheer at the windfall. But the Ghost Fleet, they experience a financial miracle. Remember the mechanics of the shadow market. They sell at a fixed discount to the global benchmark. If the benchmark goes to 100, they are now selling their invisible oil for $80. Their cost of extraction hasn't changed. Their dark logistical costs haven't changed. But their pure profit margin just doubled overnight simply because a headline created panic in the West. They are weaponizing market psychology. They are monetizing the fear of the Western consumer. This is geopolitical arbitrage in its purest form. Buy the sanctioned asset at the floor and use global anxiety to pump the ceiling. Every time an incident occurs near the strait, it acts as a massive, unearned dividend for the shadow economy. But physical logistics is only half the equation. Having $300 million worth of illicit oil is useless if you can't spend the money. You cannot exactly wire the proceeds of a sanctioned tanker through a Chase branch in Manhattan. The distribution of this capital requires a network that is completely insulated from the US dollar and the SWIFT banking system. This is where the dark money ecosystem operates with terrifying, frictionless efficiency. The buyers of this discounted oil are primarily independent, localized refineries in Asia, often referred to as teapots. They do not operate on standard letters of credit from major global banks. They use small, quiet, local financial institutions, banks that have absolutely zero exposure to the Western financial system. You cannot sanction a bank that doesn't hold US dollars, doesn't operate in New York, and doesn't care about Western regulators. The transaction happens in the shadows. The oil is delivered, and the local bank credits the shadow network in local currency. But keeping billions in capital trapped in a restricted local currency is not the endgame. The architects of this arbitrage want liquid, globally deployable wealth. They want status. They want purchasing power that crosses borders. Enter the digital washing machine. Massive sums of this fiat currency are quietly routed to over-the-counter cryptocurrency brokers. These are not the exchanges you download on your phone. These are high-level OTC desks operating in jurisdictions that do not ask questions. The fiat is rapidly converted into stablecoins, most often Tether on the Tron Network, because it moves fast, costs nothing, and is notoriously difficult to freeze once it enters the decentralized void. Once the money is on the blockchain, the real laundering begins. The capital is routed through algorithmic coin mixers and decentralized finance protocols. It goes in as a massive, traceable block of digital capital and comes out shattered into millions of microscopic, randomized transactions. It bounces across thousands of wallets, jumping between different blockchains, completely obfuscating its origin. But digital wealth is only a means to an end. The ultimate goal of dark money is always to become clean, physical reality. The washed funds eventually exit the crypto ecosystem and flow into hard, tangible assets. This is where the money hits the real world. High-end real estate in select, tax-friendly Gulf cities. Luxury developments where the builders are perfectly happy to accept hundreds of millions of dollars through complex networks of offshore shell companies. The money is legally integrated. It has been transformed from an illegal barrel of crude oil on a rusted ghost ship into an impenetrable, legal income-producing skyscraper. This entire loop is a masterpiece of modern incentive structures. It is not just smuggling. This is the creation of an entirely new sovereign wealth class. The individuals orchestrating this network are not street-level operators. They are highly sophisticated entities, blending statecraft, maritime logistics, algorithmic finance, and elite legal structuring. They understand a fundamental truth about the modern world. True power does not come from holding a physical territory. True power comes from controlling the friction between two competing systems. The West operates on transparency, compliance, and heavily regulated markets. The shadow economy operates on opacity, leverage, and asymmetric risk. The Strait of Hormuz is simply the physical choke point where these two worlds violently grind against each other. And wherever there is friction, there is heat. And wherever there is heat, someone is there to harness the energy and turn it into capital. You have to step back and look at the sheer scale of the network effects at play here. If you are operating inside this dark financial loop, absolute peace is highly unprofitable. It normalizes prices and shrinks your margins. Conversely, total war is catastrophic because it sinks the ships. The optimal, most profitable state of the world is a perpetual simmering anxiety, a controlled burn. As long as the West looks at the Middle East and sees instability, the global price of oil retains its fear premium. And as long as that fear premium exists, the arbitrage window stays wide open, pumping billions into the shadow network. They are essentially shorting global stability. And the most brilliant part of their strategy is that they use the Western media as their most effective, unpaid marketing department. Every time a news anchor frantically reports on rising tensions in the Gulf, every time an expert predicts an imminent crisis, they are actively driving up the profit margins of the very networks the sanctions were designed to destroy. The media creates the perception of risk, the market prices in the fear, and the shadow fleet collects the spread. This is the ultimate digital leverage applied to physical commodities. They have built an economic machine that feeds on Western anxiety and excretes untraceable wealth. The system isn't broken. It is functioning exactly as the incentives dictate. We are watching a masterclass in market manipulation hidden in plain sight, disguised as a geopolitical crisis. And once you see the underlying math of global panic, you realize the news isn't reporting the truth. They are just reading the scoreboard. That's where the real arbitrage begins.